That's a really difficult one, and I'm not going to speak a lot. You guys can ask some questions because I'm sure there's a lot of difficult questions you like to ask. But we did not play well today, and I'm the first one to start with that. I can't get a punt blocked and expect that you're going to be able to create and generate the momentum that you need to in complementary football. And I think it kind of starts right there. And we didn't do a good enough job on any phase of the game, and give them some credit that they came out ready to play. And outside of the first drive in the first series, we did not.
Questions? Mark, start. Get a mic from Mark, please.
But you kind of touched on it, but a lot happened out there. Where's your concern now? What worries you most about this group as you
We knew this was going to be a mountain. We knew this was going to be a lot of things. Everybody says, hey, you got to have confidence. And confidence isn't something you can just possess, right? I mean, it isn't something you can just give somebody, whether it's your team, your own kids. Like, confidence is something that's built. And that's the thing with us. And that's where you see kind of when something goes wrong, if you have a bad play, in particular for us. What I worried about was that Billy started and played, and then if all of a sudden something happened and he couldn't, does that cause some of that, deflation, as opposed to saying, hey, we just go with Danny to start with, and let's make sure that we're not going bouncing back and forth just because it makes it harder on guys. So, but we've got a challenge, and there's only going to be one way, is to go right through this thing, and it's tough in there, and there's going to be a lot of guys that have got to check themselves and see where they are. And I've talked about that. I felt like the culture of this team and the things that we did in the offseason and fall camp was something that was a lot stronger than what we have had. We're going to find out how strong it is, and that's where we're going to have to go, because this thing doesn't get any easier.
Coach, would you consider Billy 100% going into the game, and was the plan for him to play every series and he just went down, or what exactly was the plan going
No, I mean, you never – we had a good plan. We thought we had a really good plan, the things that he could do and he could do well and what he felt comfortable with. The plan was to use Danny in some other situations, but to have them both ready in the preparation. Billy took, a lot of the snaps this week, really felt pretty comfortable in the things we were going to ask him to do. But I don't know that he had been put in a situation where he had been hit and where he had, had to go probably full go. And that was the thing that worried you a little bit. I was unfortunate. I thought that he maybe just, stepped a little bit wrong, and okay, he's just got to shake it off, because, we saw that throughout the week, but he wasn't able to come back. And so, that was difficult on a lot of us.
How is Danny, Coach? Is there any update on his condition?
No, I don't know. I mean, I know that, he took a few shots in there, and I think the last one he was just maybe a little bit rattled. I didn't get a full update on it. I just know that it wasn't a point in time where we wanted to put him back in there.
Luke, slow starts have been something we've talked about over the years. Just what do you think it was tonight or today that made it just the kind of slog to start with?
Well, actually, it wasn't a slow start. We hit a couple plays and got the ball down there and pride ourselves in playing great special teams and playing all of our players on special teams, and then you get down there and in a good drive, big play from Tretch and Billy, and then you get a pump or you get a field goal blocked, and right then and there it was just a little bit of a change in momentum, So from that point, I think the next series, Billy maybe twisted or hobbled out there. And wasn't able to come back. And I think that twofold on those things, that's just, there's a little bit of a shift in there, and there's a little bit of a change in energy and momentum that we weren't able to overcome. I think it has a lot to do with that. That transition there, get a pump blocked, get a snap over the head, minus whatever. I mean, throw an interception, give it to him on the 4-yard line. Like, it's just not things that we are built right now to overcome. And so we've got to be able to eliminate those things, and those are got to be things that, as we move forward, we have to find ways to be able to do.
John.
As you could imagine at this point, a lot of frustration from the fan base. I'm sure you heard the chants during the game.
What did they say, something? Yeah, I'm sure my family.
What's your message to the fan base that
I
grows
feel them.
frustrated.
Yeah, I feel what they, I feel what their pain is, but there's nothing that we can do other than keep grinding, keep working. We have to play better. So, I don't get upset. I don't, lose my mind because of what the way they feel. They're passionate about what they do and what they want to see, and that's what you love about this place. And that's what that's what you signed up for when you came here, knowing that this place is passionate about it. They've got a history, and they expect more, just like I do.
Coach, in the past, you've talked a lot about this team's identity. What do you think this team's identity is currently, and what do you think is maybe the biggest challenge to get where you want to be?
Well, you got to have some consistency to create an identity, and that's where we just aren't right now. And so how do we find some consistency to create an identity is where we got to keep grinding to, and it's not just offensively, that's not just defensively. That's an identity as a team and as a program. It's not, I've said it a million times, your culture and your things, your identity is not what you put on the walls, right? You can walk in the team room and there's things listed on the walls. You can walk into coaches' rooms. You can see the play hard board. And just because you put those things up doesn't mean that's who you are. And so we've got to do a much, much better job of, making and finding a way to transition the way we train, the things we preach, and the things we know are important within that locker room for them to be able to show on the field, to really get a good feel and to show people what we want our identity to be.
Two-parter. One, just on Dylan Jones, it looked like he kind of was hobbled. I don't know if that's why he didn't play the second half. And then just your thoughts on the run game, in particular some of those short yardage situations where maybe you weren't able to, move the chains.
Yeah, that's a disappointment. Dylan, I don't know a whole lot on. I have not gotten anything back from him yet. He was not able to go back into the game, so I'm not sure on that. Short yardage, obviously the run game in particular, I really believed that this was going to be an opportunity for us to be able to run the football and establish some run, and even with a lot of the new guys, just our ability to say, hey, we're going to be balanced, but we got to be committed to finding ways to generate some run game. And I'm not taking anything away from them, but we could not do that. We did not do that in a manner which we felt comfortable with. Meaning even on 3rd and 1, that we hand the ball off and get a -2, and then right before half you got to make a decision on. I mean, you're down and you got to create something, and you got to go for it, and you come up short, and those kinds of things that it's really tough for us in where we are to be able to overcome. And we can't have them, whether it's get the first down, whether it's end the half with the ball. Those are all things that unfortunately we've seen too many times.
Coach, it might be a little too early in the season to tell, but do you get any sense that there's a bigger issue than what's going on the field, just in terms of the locker room, or how connected they are, how bought in they are?
No, I mean, I don't oversell. I really don't. I mean, I think in a short amount of time, I hope you guys have recognized that's not. And I do believe that the culture, the things that those guys are, and what we are, and is what our strengths need to be. And but there's a lack of identity right now, and trying to figure out what that is. And there is some ups and downs that when things don't go well, that we've had a hard time in getting ourselves out of the hole, and that's just unfortunate to where we are right now. When you've got a group of leadership, that it can be a good thing, but when you don't have a leader or the leader, it can be a little bit more difficult. I know that's what I am, and I'm supposed to be, and I need to be, but from within, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And I'll be honest, Billy has been that since he's walked in the door here, and he still continues to try to be that, but without him out there right now, it does leave a little bit of that void. But there's frustration in there. Don't get me wrong. Not everybody hurts. Everybody wants. And then there's some emotional things that are happening. But for the most, I mean, that's got to be the strength of who we are. And I don't overly worry about that. Keeping them and finding a way to create and generate more of an identity is to me the biggest thing.
Luke, you talked about your players' confidence. Where's your confidence at right now?
Well, I mean, I think it's all the same, right? I mean, I'm a part of them. You're trying to figure out, hey, what's your identity? I don't come in here and oversell, like I've said before, right? So I can't tell you what our identity is. I wouldn't tell you what our identity is, right? If things were going really well and this was the other way around, I would say our identity is what we put on film. And so, that's where we're all trying to push ourselves to, and so I can't grant them confidence. You stand tall, you stand in front of them guys every single day and try to say, hey, it's about a belief. John Gruden said it when he was here in the summer. He talked about pounding the rock, and everybody just kind of assumed he meant, oh, Wisconsin run the football. No, pound the rock was continue to believe in the things that you do, even though sometimes you can't see them. And if you continue to pound the rock and pound the rock and pound the rock with everybody, there's going to be some cracks, and eventually you're going to be able to feel and see it. And that's kind of where we are. That's where I am too. Look, I'm frustrated. I'm eats at my gut every single day, but I'm here every day. Pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. We have to stay in a belief that, look, we're going to find our way through this. It's just going to be a hell of a battle.
Luke, I'll preface this with one of those tough questions you mentioned earlier, but why do you think you're the guy that's going to get this figured out and get this turned around here at Wisconsin?
Well, I mean, where else is there to go right now for us? Look, I can't think about anything else other than 110, 12, 14 guys that are in that locker room, a group of coaches. I've said it, right? I mean, the leadership has to find a way to continue to push, to continue to show and be an example of what pound the rock looks like. And that's what I am, and, it is what it is, right? It's not easy. Everybody can have their own opinions of things. But the truth of the matter is there's no easy way out of this thing. That there's no magic. There's no sprinkle some fairy dust. If we just make one little change here, we can find a way to get through this thing. This is going to be a battle, and it's going to be a constant ability to pound the rock, continue to push forward, and find the ones that are going to do it with you.
Last one, Mark. Defensively, there were times where it seemed like your defense was kind of put in some tough spots. I know you talk about complementary football. Are those situations even today where you're expecting your defense to kind of get you, out of those situations, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we got to play sometimes, and they did a good job at times, but at times that coming off the goal line, that's a series right there that at least if we're in a better position, we can make this thing, make them at least struggle a little bit. Maybe we can get the ball back again, maybe put a touchdown on the board and find a way to at least make put them with their a little bit of sweat in their world. And that's what we needed from our defense, and we weren't able to do that. Turn the ball over, get on the 4-yard line. Yeah, it's not a good situation, but you got to find a way to step up and make a play. And as you look down through it, there's times when we played pretty well, but it's like you start to say, like, well, who made plays for you? And that's what it has to come down to. At some point in time, to win games, you got to make some plays, and especially in games where it's not as complimentary as you need. Right? If that means that the offense is struggling, then we got to find a way for guys on defense to make some more plays for us, whether that's get turnovers, whether that's knock the ball loose. I mean, it's really difficult to win when you create 0 turnovers and you get 2 kicks blocked.